Bram Stoker's Dracula inspired one of the most impressive of all silent features. Oh, hello there. You caught me reading my favorite book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. And I'm presently in 1922 with the silent horror classic Nosferatu, A Sympathy of Terror. Nosferatu is the first film rendition of the Bram Stoker classic horror novel Dracula, but it is a non-sanctioned edition of the book. So the director, the great German expressionist silent film mastermind F.W. Munro, decided without permission to just change the names of a lot of the characters. Remember, Dracula is the second most portrayed character in film history, with up to today, and still counting, 274 separate depictions of the character. The first depiction of the character is a lost film from Hungary, but the earliest and first depiction that exists today is this silent masterpiece, Nosferatu. And in my mind, when I first watched Nosferatu, A Sympathy of Terror, I was awed and struck by its immense ability to scare and to thrill. And I believe that this version, the earliest version that exists today of the Dracula book, is the best film version of Dracula that can be found today. Now, what did Munro do in order to get by the fact that he could not get permission to use the actual book and its characters? He just changed the names. Dracula became Orlok. Jonathan Harkin became Thomas Hutter. His newlywed wife replaces his fiancée from the book. Peter Hawkins becomes Knock, with a very unique twist to the character in the movie. And of course, the iconic Professor Van Helsing, the vampire killer, becomes the intellectual Professor Bulwer in this film. In addition, the city of London from the book becomes the German fictional city of Wisburg. In that city, there is Knock, I mentioned before, a real estate agent and employer of Thomas Hutter. And he sends Hutter to Transylvania to meet the Count Orlok. And Count Orlok wants to buy, in accordance to Knock, a piece of real estate in the city of Wisburg. So he sends Hutter out to deal with Orlok. During this scene, there is a hint of who Knock really is, because we are shown a letter written by Orlok to Knock that has a lot of occult symbols on it, black magic occult symbols on it, which gives us a hint of who Knock really is and who he actually represents. In any case, Hutter arrives in Transylvania, and all the townspeople are afraid of the castle of Orlok and do not want to speak about it. Eerie and foreboding, a stagecoach driver takes Knock only halfway to the castle, stopping off at a bridge that he will refuse to cross. Another stagecoach then arrives. So we have the first inkling of what this situation is for Hutter when arriving at this stagecoach. Man, if that was me, I would run back to the town, at least to the bridge, and hoping to receive a stagecoach ride back to town. But no, Hutter is thinking about the money he's going to get from his commission with this deal with Count Orlok. So he enters the castle and is introduced to the castle by Orlok himself. It is there that we are first given notice to the unique craving of Count Orlok. Blood "Your beautiful blood," states the intertitle of that scene. Now we understand that we're dealing with a vampire who craves blood. But the eeriness of the story does not stop there. Notice the animal-like response that Orlok does when attacking Hutter's finger during that scene. It's just part of what we are shown in this early and actually premiere version of vampires to movie-watching audiences. Today, when we think about Dracula and vampires, we have all these visions of campy characters, gory characters, suave, charismatic, European accent, handsome. A lot of different depictions of Dracula and the vampires have come across to movie-going audiences since 1922. But when this movie first came out, look at our version. Look at the version that Monroe is showing us. Orlok has bat-like ears, claw-like nails, and his two blood-sucking fangs aren't on the side like we're used to, but right in the middle of his mouth, like a rat. In addition, Orlok is played by an actor who portrays the vampire so well, it is easy to believe he actually is a vampire. There's never been a more frightening portrayal of a vampire than that of Max Schreck in this movie. You know, Schreck in German means fear, and to me tells me that he probably changed his name in order to promote the film. But still, look at this character. Look at the way he wanders around the screen with his ears and his fangs. Orlok travels to Westburg by boat. He travels there and he buys a property because he's interested in the newlywed wife of Thomas Hutter to be his vampire mistress. Because as we know in this film, as is in the book, when a vampire, or Orlok, or Dracula, sucks the blood of their victims, they can do one of two things. They can suck everything and kill them, or they can turn them into vampires themselves. And Orlok wants to turn Thomas Hutter's newlywed wife into his soulmate forever. And that is the reason he's moving to Westburg, and he does it through a boat. And what I found interesting in this movie is that the section of the Dracula story from the book concerning the voyage on the boat, in the book it's to London from Transylvania, and in the movie it's to Westburg, is one of the scariest and most important sections of the book. Yet almost all films of Dracula decided to ignore it. This film does not. And there are scenes of the ship that are unforgettable. On the boat, the ship crew that take Orlok with not only with his coffin and him inside it, but with other coffins with the ground of Transylvania inside, because Orlok needs his homeland ground in order to rest in his coffin. So he brings about 3-4 coffins with the ground inside, in addition to a coffin where he will sleep in. Of course, what happens on the boat is one of the most terrifying aspects of not only the book but of this movie. The movie is full of iconic scenes of vampires rising from the coffin, vampires walking, a vampire walking up a staircase, and the movie uses the neorealistic expressionist angled viewed shadow to show Orlok walking up the staircase towards Mina. It's very iconic and known throughout the world today. Sure, this movie is a classic. This movie is important historically. This film is important in terms of cultural, pop culture. All that is true. But what I found spoke to me the most, for me, was the portrayal of a vampire the way it really, really is in terms of literature. A vampire is not charming, not handsome. It's not somebody to fall in love with. He's a monster with a plague prowling the earth. This is the real Dracula. This is the real vampire. And this is a movie, if you are a fan of horror movies or cinema in general, forget the fact that it's a silent movie. This is a movie that you must see. My next review is going to be from the 1930s, and I'm going to review John Ford's iconic Western, Stagecoach. Until then, I'll leave you with the trailer of Nosferatu, A Sympathy of Terror.